At this time, it gives me pleasure, always a pleasure to have this gentleman on the air with us. Today, it's because of the situation in Israel and the terrorist attacks, but he has some good news for us. But it's always a pleasure to welcome to the airwaves former member of Knesset and someone who is so active in everything going on in Israel and supporting the state of Israel. Former member of Knesset, Dov Lipman, welcome back to JM Sunday.
Thank you, Matt. It's always good to be with you.
Thank you. Now, recent times in Israel, it's been very hard. We read about things, we hear about things over here, and you're living it there, and obviously it's extremely, extremely difficult to say the least. There have been some terrorist attacks in the last few weeks which have tried, I guess, the national patience and resolve of the state of Israel tremendously. And today you're here to give us some good news about one of the victims of the attack, someone that you know, and you just told me that your son played with when he was younger in Silver Spring, and of course I'm referring to Sergeant Netanel Felber. Please tell us how he's doing, and then give us a little bit of a background of the attacks and where we're at right now.
Sure. So Netanel, thank God, is stable, but he's still in critical condition, and that's why, as much as we try to share good news when it comes, it's critical that everyone continue to pray for him. His name is Netanel Ilan ben Shayna Tzipora. I visited him just a few days ago in the hospital. He's still in a induced coma, which is obviously difficult to see a young man who was just moments before the shooting out there defending the people of Israel, and terrorists came forward and shot him and two of his comrades at pretty much point-blank range. Sadly, two of the fellow soldiers, Menachem Haredi and Netzach Yehuda, were killed. Netanel, thank God, survived the attack, but he had a bullet that went through his head, and so he's currently in this coma. The good news is, as of yesterday, he's breathing on his own, about 20 breaths per minute. They still put him on the breathing machine to give him a rest from time to time. And aside from that, there have been certain moments where Netanel actually responded to people in the room. He squeezed his sister's hand the other day when they were singing Kabbalat Shabbat for him and reading the Parsha to him on Shabbos. They saw his pulse quicken. And there was even a moment last week where his father told him he's putting on tefillin, and Netanel moved his left shoulder and arm, sort of indicating that he was aware of what was about to happen with tefillin being put on. So, on the one hand, there's cautious optimism. We daven, the whole country here is davening. We certainly hope all of our brothers and sisters in America will join us. It's going to be a long road, if God willing, Netanel is able to pull through and recover. The family is incredibly strong, incredible people who are just calling for people to do davening and do good mice and tov, good deeds for Netanel, do extra learning for him. And this is a kid, Matis, who loved learning, loved davening, and loved doing chesed. And it's the least that we can all do for him and for his family.
It's amazing when you say specifically about how strong the family is, and especially in the face of all this. And we talk about the other family that was affected. That again, horrific, with a baby born right after this terrorist attack, and then the baby passed away. Looking at and hearing about that family also, and watching them, I saw some of the videos where I think it was Shlomo Katz was in their room singing. I mean, it's hard to believe almost, Dov, to realize you can't even think what they're going through, and yet that strength is coming from someplace, and it's amazing. It gives everybody else strength. I mean, they go through all this.
Absolutely.
You know, what we go through is nothing compared to this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when I was at the hospital on Thursday night, total strangers walked in to meet with the family, and they introduced themselves, and they said that in 2011, in March 2011, their son was in a terror attack. He was waiting for a bus in Yerushalayim, and he also had shrapnel that went through his head. The doctor said he pretty much had no chance. He was in a coma, and today he's married with two kids. and they came because they heard about Netanel, and they wanted to give the family strength. Mika Amcha Yisrael, people take time out of their schedules to come to strangers just to give them strength. And the key right now is that all of us realize it's really in the hands of the Ribono Shel Olam. When I say that, the doctors at this point, there's nothing they can really do. There will be things as time goes along, but right now they're waiting for the swelling to go down in his brain and for the opportunity to try to wake him up and see where he's holding. It really is in God's hands, and therefore that's why today at the Kotel at 7 o'clock Israel time, that's 11 o'clock New York time, we're having a special tefillah at the Kotel for him. And all throughout Israel, there's all kinds of initiatives for Netanel Ilan and Shayna Tzipora, and we certainly, again, invite everyone who's listening, if you want to, at 11 o'clock this morning, and join with us across the oceans and take a few minutes to daven for him. We would appreciate that.
That would be great, and I'm sure everybody will do that. Did I read correctly, and I just want to make sure that the person who committed this terrorist attack is the brother of the person who committed the other terrorist attack?
There's a clan called the Barghouti clan, Yamach Shemam. They have another relative who's in jail for a long time,
sure,
and even claims to be the future president of the Palestinian people. This is a cell that's at work here, and we have to also remember that as we go to sleep tonight, every single night in our beds comfortably, that's when our soldiers begin to work and go into these Palestinian villages and make arrests every single night as they try to make sure that they track down every single person responsible. And with God's help, we will. It's happened. There was an attack over 2 months ago, and it took 2 months to find and kill the person responsible, and we'll continue to do that. And there's one cell that's essentially responsible for this. There also seems to be some kind of a link to Hamas as well, and some of what's been going on. So certainly a difficult time. I think part of this story, which hits us, all of us who made Aliyah, and our son served in the army, so there's a certain kinship that we feel. We should feel it with all our soldiers, and we do. But I think, seeing a kid who grew up in America, a family made out, dedicated family to Israel, and they have their son lying right now in intensive care, still in a coma, I think it's something which hits all of us very strong and gives us a certain connection to this particular episode, even though it's certainly the kind of incident which Israel sadly has been experiencing since its inception.
Right, absolutely. Dov Lipman is with me here on JM Sunday. And I want to thank you for joining, especially on short notice. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I'm gonna have you on another time. You're a prolific author, and a few months back you authored a book called "Coming Home: Living in the Land of Israel in Jewish Tradition and Thought." And God willing, we'll have you on to talk about that. But when you write a book like that with that title, I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it's amazing. But when you talk about living in the land of Israel, and then you're faced with these things, but overall, I think you would say, it is obviously very positive to live in Israel, and you encourage everybody who can to make Aliyah.
Yeah, I would tell you that even with these setbacks and tragedies and difficulties and the sacrifices that we go through, it's the greatest possible choice that we ever made and that anyone could ever make. And raising your children and family in the land of Israel is the greatest gift that God could give us, with all the sacrifices that we have to make it happen.
Right, absolutely. Please wish the family, our best, and stay strong, and thank you for giving us the update. Do you want to give us the Hebrew name again so that people will know?
Yes, thank you so much. I was going to do that. So for everyone to daven, to learn, to do acts of chesed, sit with your children and explain to them how much this can have an impact. Netanel Ilan ben Shayna Tzipora. Netanel Ilan ben Shayna Tzipora. Again, 11 o'clock this morning, New York time. We'll be at the Kotel. You can join us in Tefillah Ved. But anything that anybody does, the family appreciates it. Netanel would appreciate it. And Bezrat Hashem will be able to share good news as he hopefully continues towards the road of recovery.
Amen. Dov Lipman, thank you again for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Matt. We share good news with each other.
Amen. Dov Lipman, former member of Knesset, and someone who is a stalwart supporter, of course, the state of Israel in so many different ways, giving us the update on the condition of Netanel Felber, the soldier who was seriously injured in that terrorist attack a short time back, and we certainly pray for his recovery.